This is a quick reminder of how to make the lovely little snowflake for those of you who attended my Zoom class with John Lewis and partners yesterday. I will also post the pattern on my blog so everyone can make one. Let's start with making our chains. You will need a double knitting yarn and 3 or 3.5 millimeter hook. I am using 3.5 so you can see better what I am doing. We start our little snowflake with 5 chains, which we then slip stitch to form a ring, and that will be the base for our first round. I'm gonna recap first how to make a slip knot. So grab the end of your yarn on the palm of your hand, make a little loop, placing your end on top of the long piece of yarn. Now lift up the loop, place it over the long piece of yarn, and lift that thread in between through. So grab it and pull it through. Pull on both ends to tighten. Now insert your hook into the loop and tighten around. Make sure it's nice and movable. So now we are ready to start our chains. Put your yarn and your hook into position and go yarn around the hook and through the loop on your hook. So that's our first chain, and you see it has formed a gorgeous little V. Yarn around the hook and through the loop on our hook again. So that's a second little V. And 3 more. 1, 2 and 3. So if you look at your V's, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We've got 5 lovely V's going up, so that means we have 5 chain. Place them on a side, insert your hook into the top leg of your first chain you have made. So for me it's this one here. Insert your hook there, grab your yarn, pull it through that chain, and then through the loop on your hook. So that way you have closed your round and you have formed a ring, you see? So if you spread it out a little bit, you will see there is a center of your ring. So on our next round, this is what we will be working into. So we start our next one with 4 chains, which count as 1/2 treble and chain 2 space. Again, I am using UK terminology. In the pattern, in the block, you will also have US conversions given in brackets. So we start with 4 chains. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. And now we will work 1/2 treble into the center of our ring. So to make a 1/2 treble, we go yarn around the hook, insert your hook from your side out into the center of the ring, grab your yarn and pull it through, untwist your work as it kind of twirls around the hook a little bit. We have 3 loops on our hook. Yarn around the hook and pull it through all 3. That's our first 1/2 treble made. So now we have to do chain 2, and we're going to work another 1/2 treble into our ring. So we're gonna go yarn around the hook, into the ring, grab your yarn and pull it through, 3 loops on our hook, yarn around the hook, and pull it through all 3. Okay, so that you can see we've got another chain space made. So on the next one we will fill up those chain spaces to form our little peaks, to form the little peaks of our snowflake. So again, we're gonna chain 2, we're gonna work a 1/2 treble, chain 2. Okay, so this is end of our round. We've got 5 chain spaces, and we ended our repeat with chain 2, which will create the 6th chain space. But what we have to do to create it, we have to join our round. So we join our round by slip stitching into the second of our 4 chains at the beginning of the round. So you see those ones here. So for me, my second, so you've got one here and the second one here. So for me, it's here. So what you do, you insert your hook into the center of that chain. See, make sure you grab 2 threads there, because otherwise it will, if you go through one thread only, it will pull it a little bit too much. Grab your yarn, pull it through that stitch, and immediately through the loop on your hook. So that's our first round finished. You see, we've got 6 chain spaces, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And we are ready for our next round. So on the next round, we will fill in all those chain spaces. To start, we have to be in our first chain space first. So insert your hook into the first chain space to slip stitch to be in the right position. So grab your yarn, pull it through that chain space and through the loop on your hook. And then chain 1. And if we look at our chart, we are going to work 1 double crochet, 1 half treble, 1 treble, chain 3, 1 treble, 1 half treble, and 1 double crochet, all into this chain space. So that will form our peak. So we're going from smallest to highest, then again from highest to smallest. So to make a double crochet, insert your hook into the chain space, grab your yarn and pull it through, 2 loops on your hook, yarn around the hook and pull it through both of those loops. So that's our double crochet. Now half treble. Half treble is the same stitch that we have made on our first round, so that's easy peasy now. Yarn around the hook into the chain space, grab your yarn and pull it through. We have 3 loops on our hook, yarn around the hook and pull it through all 3. A little tip for you, if you have issues going through those 3 loops on your hook, when you go yarn around the hook, what I usually do to pull it through nicely, I usually wiggle my hook around a little bit. So that way it pulls through a lot easier. So now we're going to make a treble. Treble is a lovely and tall stitch and we create it like this. We're going to go yarn around the hook, into our chain space, grab your yarn and pull it through. As with half treble, we have 3 loops on our hook, but we're going to do something a little bit different now. So we're going to go yarn around the hook, pull it through 2 loops on hook. That gives us 2 loops left. Then we're going to go yarn around the hook and pull it through remaining 2. So we always end up with 1 loop on our hook. See? So that's half of our peak made. So now we are going to go chain 3, 1, 2, and 3. And we're going to again work treble, and now we're going to work treble, half treble, double. So how to make a treble? So let me show you how to do a treble again. Yarn around the hook, into the same space, grab your yarn and pull it through. 3 loops on our hook. We're gonna go yarn around the hook through 2, yarn around the hook through remaining 2, and now half treble, all the way through, and end with a little double. So into our chain space, grab your yarn and pull it through. 2 loops on our hook, yarn around the hook through both of those loops. So that is our first peak made. So if we look at our chart, this is this one, you see? It's perfect representation of our work. So now what we have to do exactly the same thing on every single peak. But now we're not going to slip stitch into our spaces, we're just gonna go straight in with a double. So into your next chain space, insert your hook, grab your yarn and pull it through, yarn around the hook and finish off the double. So that's our double crochet. So now we're gonna do half treble and treble, chain 3, treble, half treble and double, and that we're going to work into every single chain space. So now we are at the end of our round, and what we have to do to finish it off, we have to slip stitch it to join our round. So what we do, we're going to slip stitch into the first double crochet that we made. So in our first chain space, the first double crochet. So if you look at the top of your work, your stitches have formed lovely V's, you see? So what we're going to do, we're going to insert a hook under the two legs of the V. See, like this. Grab your yarn, pull it through the stitch, and immediately through the loop on your hook. So that is our second round finish. You see, and now we have created lovely little peaks of our snowflake, and each chain space from round number 1 is filled. So now, if we look at our chart, see? So that's all those lovely little peaks. So now on our next round, we will now on our next round, it's the pink round, and we will create this lovely little lacy effect that gives us a delicate look to our snowflake. So if you look at the pink round, what we need to do, we need to end up into this chain space here. So what we're going to do, we're going to slip stitch all the way until we end up into our first chain space. So you look at the V's of your stitches, and what we're going to do, insert a hook into the next stitch, grab a yarn, pull it through, and immediately through the loop on our hook. And we're going to do exactly the same thing with the next one. And now we're going to slip stitch into our chain space, so our next chain space. Okay, so now we are on the right position to create our little loops. So if we look at the little loops, it's all very simply just chain 3, slip stitch into the chain space, chain 5, slip stitch into the chain space, chain 3, slip stitch into the space, chain space, and then we're going to make chain 3 and jump into the next chain space of our next peak. Okay, so chain 3, 1, 2, 3, slip stitch into the same chain space, chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, slip stitch into the same space, chain 3 again, and slip stitch into the same space. So our first peak is finished. So let's have a look how it looks. See, we've got lovely little loops, and if we look at our chart, this is exactly what it looks like on our chart. So now we are jumping into the next chain space by making chain 3. So we're going to work 1, 2 and 3, and we are ready now to slip stitch into our next chain space. And then we're going to chain 3, slip stitch into the same chain space, chain 5, slip stitch into the same chain space, chain 3 again, slip stitch into the same space, and that little peak is finished. So we've got 3 loops, we have finished that peak, and now we're moving on to the next one. So chain 3 and work the same into the next peak and every single peak until the end. So now we have worked every single peak. All we have to do is join our round to finish off our snowflake. So we end our repeat on chain 3, and what we have to do, we're gonna slip stitch it to join our round. You can either slip stitch it to the first chain 3 space we have made, so like so. So just insert your hook into the chain 3 space, or you can slip stitch it into the slip stitch itself. So you know the slip stitch that we've made when we went into our first chain space. So this is, for me, it's this one here, so you can see the V of the slip stitch. So you can just slip stitch it into that. Whichever way you do is perfectly fine. And now what we're going to do, we're going to cut off our yarn. And our snowflake is complete. All you have to do, if you wish, you can make a loop. To make a loop, I've joined my yarn into the chain 5 space of any peak really you choose. Place your yarn on, so insert your hook into the space, place your yarn, grab it and pull it through. Then I chained 15. And I slip stitch back into the same space. So slip stitch back into the same chain space. Cut your yarn, pull it through. So now your snowflake is finished. All you have to do is weave in the ends and block your little snowflake.